Range of exhibits here at the first steam at Stonham. We have steam engines, barn engines and tractors, and we have a range of invalid carriages. Mr. Abbott's going to tell you a little bit about them. The first one is...
That's a Trilox. That's made by Invercar. It's got a 97cc engine. I don't really know what the year is. I think it goes back to the 1930s. We haven't been able to find out. It's got a Villiers two-stroke engine on, and it's got a wooden body. That's about much as you can say, how much I know about it actually.
Where do they all come from? Do you find them at...
Well, I find them, that one, the Carter that we're now coming to, I found it in Aldershot.
Aldershot.
That spent 3 months in the Booley collection when the year of the disabled. That's got a 36-volt battery unit, under 40 miles on the batteries.
Yeah, this is the electric one.
The electric one, yeah. That's the same one as used by the Dame of Sark. She still uses one like it.
That's on the Channel Islands where they're not allowed any vehicles.
That's right, yeah. She uses one exactly like that. Yeah.
And the next one is a Harding.
The next one is a Harding. I found that within about 2 miles of my home. That's got a that's a 1945. And that's got about a 135 engine on it, at about 35 miles an hour. That runs on a two-stroke engine.
The next one is the Carter's electric one, which you just mentioned.
Electric, yeah, that's a 1950. So you can't get up here. That's a 1952, I think it is, yeah. Can't read up there. Yeah. And the one at the end, I found that in a garden under a piece of tin, belonging to a millionaire. And I tried to buy it off him, and after a lot of haggling, he finally sold it for him. And it belonged to his father, who was 97. His father had just died, and he wanted 50 quid for it to pay for the funeral. That's got a 137 engine on it. Yeah. A Villiers engine, just the same, run on a two-stroke mixture. But that was a deluxe model. That come from the London area. That was where that was first registered. I've got the bill of sale, the original bill of sale, original insurance and everything for it. But we still haven't completed it because we can't get the parts for it. We have to gradually make them up. And I've got about another 6 of these at them, different sorts. And there's another 5 I want to get. And that'll more or less complete my collection.
So at a future rally we can look forward to seeing...
If I can get them all there, yeah. Yeah.
I suppose transport must be a bit of a problem.
Well, we used to run a lorry, but that got too expensive. And we used to run these at rallies, around the ring, but the insurance got a bit heavy. So we had to cut that out, because they wouldn't insure me unless I had all my family driving who were used to it. Because to put a stranger in one of them can be rather hairy.
I would think so, yeah. Our next visit is a 1922 Burrell. Okay, if you'd like to tell us a bit about the machine.
This engine was new at the Royal Cambridge Show in 1922, and grandfather bought it about a couple of years after then, took it back to Ford End, which is near Great Dunmow, and that was used for contract thrashing in the Chelmsford Great Dunmow area from about 1926 until 1948, when that was laid up and stood derelict until about 1965, when we restored the engine completely and did all the necessary jobs and started going to rallies with it.
You've been going to rallies every year?
Yeah, we've been going to rallies for the last 20 odd years, yes.
Do you take it under its own steam?
No, sometimes we do. I mean, for instance, we did last weekend, but we use a low loader quite a bit as well.
Do you do any demonstrations actually working it at the moment, or do you?
We do, yes. We do thrashing demonstrations, wood sawing demonstrations, and timber loading demonstrations.
By Mr. Young from Stansted, who's going to tell us a little bit about the machine and the type of work it did over the years. Mr. Young?
Well, it's a steam tractor, which means it's under 5 tonnes, though in fact it weighs about 5.5 tonnes when it's fully watered up and cold. This in fact was restored about 9 years ago, and in fact the remains of 2 Garrett tractors put together to form one. because there were so many bits missing and it was in such a poor state, having spent 25 years in a children's playground. Their use, well, they were used in the early days of the early 1900s for all sorts of things, for moving furniture instead of the horse on the front of the removal van, for hauling timber out of woods and forests, both on the winch, which they're equipped with the other side, and in actual pulling. They were used on the saw bench as well when the wood was turned into timber, and a lot of these spent their final days as threshing engines, the same as their big brothers alongside, but on a smaller version of the threshing drum, about 36 inch drum. But their main advantage over the big ones is they were that much faster. This would do about 12 miles an hour absolute maximum speed on the road. In fact, coming over here on Friday, we averaged 8 miles an hour from Haverhill to here, coming through the middle of Stowmarket. And tomorrow morning at 7 we start on our way back, going right through to Stansted in Essex, 57 miles if I remember rightly.
Is this another rally you're going to?
Well, it'll go home to start with tomorrow, and then it'll stay outside my house until Friday, well, Saturday morning, and then we'll steam it off to another rally Saturday at Amwell, near Ware.
And you take this on under its own power?
This one goes under its own power everywhere it goes. It's been on a low loader twice in its life, that's all.
Well, it's a very nice machine. You've obviously put a lot of work into it.
Well, it takes quite a bit of
7 horsepower. It's owned by Mr. Eagle, who's busily cleaning at the moment. We're going to interrupt him. He's going to tell us a little bit about it. Under the famous sign of Britannia. Mr. Eagle.
Yeah, well, she's a Marshall 1908, built in Gainsborough, in Lincolnshire. She worked most of her time in Yorkshire, thrashing and sawing wood and so on and so forth. So that was rescued about in the 60s, where it came to Tilbury, and Mr. John Ongington done a lot of the restoration work on it. And we bought it 2 years ago, my wife and I.
So you're keeping up the tradition
hopefully.
Of rallies. And have you done a lot of rallies with it?
Yes, we've known the engine 12 years. And, you know, and we've worked with it for 12 years. So we're fairly well up with the engine.
Are you planning to do other sort of work demonstrations?
Well, we have.
Do you just do rallies?
We know we have a thrashing machine, my brother and I, and we had it on the thrashing machine at the last Suffolk show, and that was quite impressive sight. That's fully restored.
A very nice machine.
Yeah.
It's owned by
Thank you very much.
Simon Webb, who's going to tell us a little bit about the machine. Mr. Webb?
Well, that's known to be the oldest Foster traction engine around. Unusual feature of Starkey valve gear. That's just there's only 2 of these. Well, it's known to be the only one of the only 2 surviving Fosters with Starkey valve gear. Well,
where did the machine come from originally?
I think it come from Lincoln. That was new to a man by the name of Joseph Cade from Wadpole, and that's, you know, that's a thrashing engine. It's been thrashing all its life. I've had it for about, well, it must be 2 years now. I've had the engine.
Did you do the restoration work on it, or
no?
has it already been done?
That has already been done before I had it. I've done a lot of work on the firebox and boiler and that. You know, a lot of alterations have been taken out on it. A lot of work has been done on it.
Are these expensive machines to keep up?
Fairly, yes. To move about, low loader and all that.
Yeah. Do you ever drive it on its own steam?
Yes, we steam it. We go to quite a few rallies around our area, along Malford. We drive it around there, yes. But longer journeys we have to put it on a low loader because we're not sprung, you see. Our iron wheels.
I see some of the engines have got rubbers on the wheels. Is this something you can put on?
Yes, you can put them on, but I'd prefer to see them as they were originally.
Because none of them obviously had rubber tyres when they were built, and they all run just on the steel wheels, yeah?
Well, road engines some of them had rubber tyres on, but
But this
My
was essentially
engine.
a farm
This is
machine.
a traction engine, agricultural engine. That's supposed to have iron wheels.
Okay, Mr. Webb, thanks very much for
That's all right.
talking to us about Jumbo the Fourth, and good luck on 16 Ransom, Sims and Jeffries. We believe that's the last working one in the county. It's owned by Mr. Brooker from Southwold, who's going to tell us a little bit about the history of the machine and its working life. Mr. Brooker.
Well, I'm very pleased because this machine started its working life in the next village to where I grew up as a boy. So for me, it's a home registration. That's my home county, Huntingdonshire. EW is the old original number. So I've got a machine that worked about 7 miles away for the first 16, 17 years of its working life. I say in the village, I grew up as a small boy. I'm particularly pleased with that. And she was owned after then by one family for some 16 years or so. And then the next owner, he and his father had it for about 16 years, but I've only had it the last 3 since I retired from work. I'd always fancied one and wanted one, and decided when I was going to retire, well, I'd have one then, 2 or 3 years enjoyment. As I say, always been very interested in them. But I thought I knew a bit about them, but I didn't realise how hard and dirty work it was until I had one of my own. But I do enjoy being with it, all the hard work when you start to move up the field or the flywheel starts to turn over, when you've got some steam, all seems very worthwhile, very satisfying.
And do you work it with machinery sometimes?
I haven't as yet, but the previous owner used to do a lot of threshing regularly. He preferred to have 2 days threshing rather than attend a rally. But myself, I've had one turn on a drum and at a rally, but I can't say I've done a day's work or anything like that, I just haven't.
Have you done any restoration work on it at all? I mean, it looks
only the fitting of the canopy, but the previous owner, Mr. Green of Beccles, he did, I suppose, 90% of the work involved in putting a canopy on it. I didn't mind getting wet at work in my working life, but I wanted a bit of protection, say, for enjoyment.
I see.
So the canopy was added with me, but mechanically, no, she was in sound condition. I knew it was impossible for me to think of buying one that needed restoration. I knew I would have to buy one in good working order, and I felt I could maintain it so for 3-4 years, something of that. And no, I've had to do nothing mechanical to it. She's still in very, very good working order and still quite capable of doing the day's threshing.
That is remarkable after 70 years.
Yes, 70 years old.
And did you bring it under its own steam, or did you drive it on an overloader?
And I towed it here behind the tractor on Friday. I do steam it a bit, but that was a bit too far. And being retired and sort of watching low loader costs, which are pretty high these days, I've pulled it behind it. I've got a big tractor, an old farm tractor that I pull it behind. It's a slow job, but I got here. I came 31 miles in 4 3/4 hours with it on Friday. You've got to keep down to the speed that she would have travelled herself, and I try to keep tucked into the side of the road so I don't hold anybody up more than possible. But low loaders are expensive these days. But probably looks a bit false towing it along behind a tractor. Certainly, it's a much nicer world when they're in steam. But
Certainly are.
yes.
Okay, Mr. Brooker, well, thanks for talking to us, and we hope to see you again next year. That's owned by Reg and Iris Stoutley, who I hope are going to come off the machine now and talk to us about the machine. It's Reg and Iris?
That's right, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the machine and the work it does?
Well, we bought this about 30 years ago, actually, and all the barrel had gone, it all rotted to pieces. So that we had to cut it off here, take all the workings off, roll a new barrel and rivet on, new tube plate, new tubes in, new smoke box, new chimney, put all the workings back. This is about 30 years ago, so we've been rallying this ever since. Now this was used it's mainly for thrashing the corn with the machine that's driving now. Not that particular machine, but like that.
That type of machine?
That's right, yeah. Occasionally I've done a bit of wood sawing, but not very often. Now this Devonshire, it was made at Thetford at Burrells. It was made for the Devonshire countryside because of the low hedges and trees, narrow roads. It's a 6 horsepower block but a 5 horsepower boiler. They're powerful little engines, and this was the reason that Burrell made them so small. That's about all I can say about the engine sort of thing, you know.
I completely repainted this last year.
You've done all the painting?
Yeah, I did all the painting on it and completely repainted it. It took me a whole day to clean one wheel and repaint it.
This is apart from being a housewife and looking after Reg.
That's right, and 9 dogs. And paint all around the back there, and we cheated a bit putting these lines on because they're really from what you put on cars when you customise them.
It does look very effective anyway.
Yeah. Well, we haven't quite finished it because we've got to put the yellow lines on each side of these and feather the ends off, just to finish off the wheel.
And this is something you'll do later in the year?
Yeah, we'll do later in the year, probably when we're over at Weeting. We've probably got more time over there to do it. And we'll do that and finish it off on the front wheels the same. And do it complete.
You spent last winter, is it?
Yes.
Cleaning and...
Yeah, cleaning. Well, there's always something to do on it. No matter what you do, there's always quite a lot of work to do on it. My husband does repacking of the things on there and one thing and another. And I do what I can on it to help him.
It sounds like you both enjoy the work.
I do very much. Oh, I'll get up 4 o'clock in the morning willingly to go out with this.
And Reg, I believe that you are a boilermaker by trade.
That's right, yes. We go out to mills and factories and install boilers and repair them, retube them, rivets, anything to do with a boiler we do.
And do you work on other people's engines occasionally?
Occasionally, yes, yeah. We've actually got one to piece at near Dunmow now. We're drawn up for chat. We stripped it right away down, there wasn't nothing left of it. We've done 3 engines this year, besides boilers, you know, and factory and that sort of thing. But I should have explained really at the start that this is a compound. Yeah. Now, a compound, it uses the steam twice. It makes it more economical, so it doesn't need so much coal and it doesn't need so much water. The thing is, it's got a high pressure cylinder and a low pressure cylinder. The steam goes into the high pressure cylinder first, and it drives the piston one way, and it goes through into the low pressure cylinder and drives it back, so it makes it more economical. Now this is a single crank compound, and this block where you get the 2 pistons on one block is a Burrell pipe, and you won't see it on any other make. It's only Burrell. These are fairly high-speed little engines for the size of them, you know, and we think that she run pretty well.
Well, it's a very nice machine. You obviously enjoy the life of the rallies and the steam engines. Okay, Reg and Iris, thanks very much for talking to us, and we'll hope to see you again next year.
Thank you.
26 Aveling Porter steamroller. It's owned by Mr. Pye from Brantford, and it's driven by Mr. Hines, who is tell us a little bit about the history of the machine, where it came from and the type of work it used to do. Mr. Hines?
Yeah, well, the machine is a 6-ton Aveling roll, and it spent most of its working life in South Wales at Newport for a firm called Richards. And then in 1959, I think it was bought into the Norfolk area. I'm not quite sure who bought it there. And then it spent a good deal of years with Mr. Frost at Tangleston. And 2 years ago, Mr. Pye from Brantford bought it from him.
Did he do any of the restoration work on it, or was it basically...
That's basically how he bought it. There's 1 or 2 things that we still want to do to it, like get it lined out and all the rest of it. You know,
the boiler.
The boiler and all around the roll brackets and the spokes of the wheels and that sort of thing, to smarten it up, you know, to complete it. Yeah.
It's obvious from its name what the type of work it used to do. Was it mainly just road rolling, or was there other types of work?
Yes, I would say it's mainly just road rolling, but It could possibly have been used for things like farm driveways and that sort of thing, because it's a little light, it's a light roller, and so it's ideally suited for that sort of work, you know.
I see. Yeah. And when did it actually finish its working life, its useful life?
In the 1950s, so I think around about 1957 time.
This was the age of the diesel came and took over.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember steam rollers when I was a boy, you know, and the transition period, really.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Hines, thanks very much for having a word with us.
You're welcome.
I see the machine's called Rove. We heard it keeps roving a long time.
Yeah. In actual fact, the owner doesn't like that name. We're thinking about changing the name.
What are you going to change it to?
Well, he's thinking about calling it Perseverance.
Perseverance, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll look out for it at another rally.
Yes,
and so
hopefully,
we can see you.
Hopefully we'll be, anyway.
Thanks very much. Next machine, a 1916 Wallace and Stevens, 7 horsepower. It's owned by Mr. Naylor from Barking at Needham Market. Mr. Naylor, could you tell us a little bit about the machine, its history and its working life?
Yes, that was built in 1916 for agricultural work.
Yeah.
And the army commandeered it in the First World War for pulling guns about.
So, mate, we haven't heard of one doing that sort of work yet, but it's not really surprising, I suppose.
No. So it's a pretty old machine.
And have you been with it a long time?
I've had it 21 years, 1965 when I bought it.
Did you restore it?
Yes, I restored it, and I've been rallying it all that while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've obviously seen a few rallies and a few engines.
Certainly have. Yes.
Are there many of these ones about? That is a fairly unusual name, I believe.
Oh well, there is. Shall we say? I think there's an 8 horsepower and a 6 horsepower, and up to about 10 years ago there was a 7 horsepower that I knew of still running. Whether they're still running now, I don't know, because they're all getting older and all getting, you know, past
right,
it, like. Yeah.
And do you drive it on the road, or do you bring it here on a?
No, we cheat a bit. We have the low loader because as that's on iron wheels, that's a bit, you know, a bit bumpy like on the road.
Obviously, bringing it on a loader, you know, will help preserve it a little bit.
Oh, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, and do you do demonstrations with it actually working?
Yes, we still thrash with it occasionally at rallies, and I've got a chaff cutter like you see over there, and you know, so we still do chaff cutting with it occasionally too. Yes.
I see you're sponsored by Munton and Fyson.
Yes.
These people actually, you know, help towards the upkeep of it, or do they use it?
No, they sponsor me for me coal and to help me with the low loader to get me here. And that's all, yes. Yeah, I think that's all it is.
Well, it's a very nice machine, and we hope that the rare ones will keep going a lot longer.
Yes, I do with all my heart as well. Yes.
We hope to see you here again next year.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Down in scale, I might add. Mr. Laws, how did you come by the machine?
Well, my brother made that over a period of 10 years. And that was a part-time weekends and evenings.
I see.
And that was made orphan scrap, except the steam gauge and the injector.
And I believe it is a model of a particular engine.
Yes, it's a model of a Marshall 7 horsepower. Yes.
And did you actually buy any of the parts at all, or is it all handmade?
It's all fabricated, except he bought the steam gauge and the injector.
This is something that you can't really make yourself.
Yes, that's right. He was forced to buy them, but everything else was made. The cylinder and everything was fabricated.
And these are exact replicas of Marshall engines?
Exact, yes, exact.
I must say, they do really look very, very well made indeed.
Yeah.
I believe you've got some other models here. Perhaps we could just walk along and just have a look at those.
Yes.
You could tell us a little bit about those.
Yes.
This is also a model of a Marshall, and it's a Marshall
thrashing drum.
I see.
Yeah, it's a 4-inch. That's a model. That's a 4-inch scale, and I made that myself.
And how long did this take you to make this one?
This took about 4 years to make. My brother done all the machine work, but I did all the woodwork and the assembling.
I believe you've also got an interesting woodworking hobby that you do.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. Make doll houses and wheelbarrows and everything like that.
And all this model making, is it in demand?
Not really. Not really. I don't think you could make money on them if you were going to charge, say, £2 an hour. You'd never be able to sell them.
They really are collector's items.
Yes, yes.
Well, they really are very well made. I must compliment you on excellent turnout.
Yeah.
So, Lord, thanks very much for talking. 1874 Turner portable engine, and it's owned by Mr. Moore from Rushmere near Ipswich. Mr. Moore, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the machine?
Well, it was in a mill at Shottersham near Bordsey, a water mill. I worked there about 70 or 80 years as far as I can gather, and when the mill shut, the mill fell down round and we salvaged it from there.
Was it still in working order when you salvaged it?
No. Spent about 10 years repairing it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And the repairs, what sort of work did you do for repairs?
Well, it had a new set of tubes, new front tube plate, new smoke box.
And this is one of the portable engines, and it was obviously towed about from place to place.
Horses, yeah.
By horses.
Yeah.
And that was mainly used in farm work, or was it used in milling work?
Mill, that was, from the time it was made till the mill fell down, it was used in the mill daily.
And generally, they were used on farms for
They were used on farms, yes, but not for this particular one.
I believe this one is unusual because of its age, and you believe is the only one in the country.
Yes.
So it's quite unique.
Yeah.
And do you bring it to many rallies?
No, it's more or less handed over to Stowmarket Museum of East Anglian Life now. That's where its home is, more or less.
And this is where it lives most of the time?
Yes, where it always is, yeah.
And is it working at the
Yes,
museum?
about once a fortnight, or if they have anything they want done, you know, they want children or anything, I go and steam it for them.
And you're the only person who works it?
Yes.
Well, it's very interesting. Apart from its age, I think this is the only of the portable engines. Chelmsford. It's got it working now, with a thresher and a medium baler on the rear end. John Deere tractor working a Canadian threshing machine. We've got Mr. Self here to tell us a little bit about what's actually happening.
The grain has been thrown onto the feed elevator with the strings still attached to the sheaves. The knives cut it just on the intake at the top, and it goes down for a series of feeders into the drum, which has got pegs on instead of beater bars, which chops the straw up quite short. And after the drum, the rest of the machine is quite conventional, really. The grain is sorted out through the sieves and the fan. When the straw has had all the grain thrashed out, it falls off the back and it goes into a large fan which blows it up the pipe into the trailer. And the grain comes down the spout and is bagged up. It's much the same as an English drum, really, but it needed about half as many men to operate it, which is what was brought over during the war when labour was scarce.
The tractor is actually 1947. How old is the threshing machine?
I would guess the thrashing machine's about 1944. There's not a lot of difference in age, really.
And the machine you've got actually working at the trailer, pulling the trailer, that's a fairly modern tractor, I take it?
Yeah, that's quite modern. That's about a year old, but it was made in the same factory as what the old tractor was.
Traction engine. We've got the owner and the builder with us, who built it in, must be record time, in about a year. He's just going to tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I don't know what to say.
You've obviously had an interest in traction engines.
Yes, interested in traction engines for quite some time, and it's basically a hobby. That's all the interest is.
Have you ever thought about going for the real thing?
Well, I'd like to, but it's a bit too expensive for me to consider it even.
You're quite happy with the small?
Quite happy with it, yeah. Yeah.
It certainly is a really well made machine. It's a stationary sawmill machine. That's a 16 horsepower Ackroyd oil engine. That was found by the present owners. Much as it is now in working order, apart from the clean and the paint. Exhibited now at rallies and shows. We're going to have a word with the owner, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how he came by it and what has happened to it over the years.
It used to belong to an old man in Norfolk. He bought it in 1941 for £175, brand new. He moved from Norfolk down to Suffolk, to Old Stonham. I brought it down Buttrayen, and he used it up to about 12 years ago, and it got so he couldn't get the TVO, the paraffin, so he eventually stood it up in the nettles. And that stood there for about 6 years, and that was grew right up. You couldn't see it, you could just see the front. I went there one day. Well, I used to ride on it when I was a little boy, and I always said, if you ever want to sell it, give me the first offer for it. I went up there one day and he said, I'll give you the first offer, you can buy it off me. So I gave him £130 for it, so he didn't lose a lot, did he?
Not very much. No.
And we dragged out the nettles, and within 2 hours I'd got it gone. And I took it back to where I live, and I completely overhauled it and restored it. And I made all the mud guards, foot plates, even made the steering wheel. And a lot of the parts you can't get, so I had to run around and find, you know, people what got odd bits, and made all the kingpins up, front axle, parts up for the front axle. And there she is, all restored.
Well, you always made a very good job of it and spent a lot of time on it.
That took me 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of hard work.
And that's all hand painted. I haven't been sprayed, I hand painted the lot. And the old man, he only just lived next door to me, he come and looked at it the other day and he said it looked better now than what it did when it was new.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, thanks very much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Would have ran the lighting system. There was probably a small country house in its time. We've got Mr. Rotting here who will tell us a little bit about the machine.
Well, it's a petrol light unit generating 25 volts at 300 amps. It's driven by a 3 horsepower petrol M type engine, and it would probably be used to supply all the power and needs for a small country house at the turn, well, in the 1920s and 30s. This would be used mainly for lighting. It could be used for small appliances, but mainly for lighting in the house. It would charge up a number of heavy-duty batteries that would be in use during the day, and then when the unit came in and was started up in the evening when the peak load was on, it would then recharge those batteries for the following day. It could probably light up possibly about 30 rooms in the house, because bearing in mind, whereas we probably accept nowadays 10 or a dozen bulbs per room, in those days they would only have perhaps 1 per room, so it would probably light quite a medium-sized house, really.
And do you know the history of the machine?
Only in as much as I did buy it in Suffolk, actually. I live in Norfolk, but I did buy it down in Suffolk, and the only thing I can tell you was that I bought it in 3 separate units and have put it together as you see it today. But it's approximately about 1926, the age of it is, for the whole unit.
Okay, well, lovely, thanks very much. We now is a Lister Junior, and Mr. Chrysler is going to tell us a little bit about the machine and its history and what it was used for.
This one was used by my wife's uncle for cutting firewood in the early stages of his life. That's how I acquired the machine. The water pump was a twin ram Godwin water pump that came out of a gentry's house at Curtin. Took 4.5 hours to get it out because the framework RSJs was set in solid concrete, and that was installed there in 1932 to pump water up to the attic in the house. And I acquired this for the simple reason I made a square shaped ball, if you can understand, square at the bottom, round the top, for a top of a tent for the gentleman. And by doing that, this is what he gave me, this water pump.
So it was wages?
It was sort of one favour deserved another favour. But I think his little piece of wood it cost about 50 pence, whereas this like there now, you wouldn't get it for £70.
Was it in running order when you picked it up?
That was still in running order. They've still got the original seals in the pump. The only thing I had to do when I took it to pieces, I had to put a new gasket on the top of the pump because I missed the other one getting it off, but everything else is still the same. As for the engine itself, it hasn't been taken to pieces since I had it. All I've done was cleaned it and repainted it.
It's still in very good condition.
Yeah.
Obviously looked after over the years.
Yeah.
How old would you say it was?
That's a 1944 engine and a 1932 water pump. Still to be finished, the engine is still to be finished, because the top of the carburettor, we have what they call an apple top cover. I can't acquire one of them yet, but that's made out of a piece of aluminium and a half a ping pong ball.
I see.
And that's the same shape as the original one. The place where I got it from, the chap I got it from, his wife do this here, the mark I got on there, what I collect for charity, his wife was secretary for that, the cystic fibrosis. And the water tank is in my old copper water tank at the house, with just the engine beveled over to make it, use it for water.
It's obviously still in very good condition.
Yeah.
We hope it'll keep going, and we'll see. It was used to pump water and this sort of work. Mr. Madison here is the owner. He can tell us a little bit about the machine itself.
Well, it was made 1920. It's American. The pump, what I'm working on, it is not really big enough for the pump. It should be about 3 or 4 times the size. But I use this one for display purposes.
And how did you come by the machine?
I just happened to mention to a gentleman at Bungay that I'd like to get one, and he said, told me to just go across to his house, and he's got one in the shed.
And was it in that condition when you got it?
No, I spent a year restoring that.
Was it working?
No, the magneto was completely US. I had to have that rebuilt for a professional. The piston rings were all broken, the timing was up the creek. The main bearings had to be all seen to. It took me a year working on it and building a trolley and that for it.
Then the American one, is that a fairly rare item?
No, there's 3 here today actually.
Yeah, and what sort of work were they used for apart from the water pumps?
Generators, generating electric, and on farms, cattle food. And also on some elevators they were used.
Okay, Mr. Madison, well, it's a very nice machine. You've obviously done a lot of work on it. Thank you very much. Lister barn engine, that's owned by Mr. Talbot. He's going to tell us a little bit about the machine.
Yeah, well, I suppose that years ago when the engine was actually in a barn, the use would be for driving heavy machinery such as a mill machine, or a cake crusher, perhaps a heavy hay knife with intentions for cutting hay up right small for horses in them days, and also could have been used for a beet shredder, cutting up beet, making beet smaller for cattle to eat, you see. The general use in a farm, in a barn, in actual terms, for a machine like that, could also been used outside to use on a saw bench, a reasonably heavy saw bench that would drive, no bother.
And did you restore the machine?
Yes, we restored the machine as it is today. When we found it, that was all rusty and had not a very good life in its later days after that was finished on a farm. And we stripped it all down and had everything out, and just left the shell, and we rebuilt it up in our spare time and on weekends and whatever time we had up to its original estate.
How long did that take to do that?
Well, to do it properly, that took us well over 6 months. That's on mahogany frame, as you see, and the wheels are off a chicken shed of years ago, what you used to pull about on the stubbles with when you used to let them feed on the stubbles. And in general, that's what the thing is all about, really.
Well, you've made a very nice job of putting it together. It's very good.
Well, I have friends who help me. I've got a friend on the motor there who helps me to do them, and he's got great interest in them. He's a bit more of a mechanic than I am, but we do it as we come along, and you know, it's just fun for us. That's here for pleasure.
Yep.
The public to see.
Well, it's given a lot of people a lot of pleasure today, I think.
Well, they're interested in it. The old girl, she's been running all day since first thing this morning.
All right, Mr. Talbot, thanks very much for talking to us.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you, and it's nice to have you talk to me. It's a great interest for the public to come and have the chance to see them.
Okay, thanks very much. What about the machine you've got here today?
Yeah, well, it's round about 1920 4-horsepower mule team, a 4-mule team of Manco. It's bought by my grandfather, and therefore it's been in the family and sort of handed down. And a bit of a relic when I first had it. But with the cylinder head broken with the frost, igniter all seized up and so on. But we gradually got it to go, mended it and got it to go, as you say it today.
What sort of work did it do?
Well, I used to drive a mill, a saw bench, and a chaff cutter, and that sort of thing on the farm, you see. Yeah. Various things. That was, being portable, that was dragged about from one place to another on the farm.
Was it used outside as well?
Oh, it was used all outside. I stood outside all the time. Even when it was driving the mill, the engine sort of stood in the doorway of the barn, you see.
I see.
Yeah. Well, and they used to drive the chaff cutter by driving a shaft through the wall.
Yeah.
You see? Yeah, that was just sort of general farm use.
So it's basically now in the original condition?
Just about everything original, yes. Yes. Even the frame it's on is all original. The woodwork as well, mainly. The front axle was broken. We put a new front axle on it. New toolbox at the back. And various new bits and pieces to which were rusted away, like pipes and so on. But other than that, that is brought back to roughly what it was originally. Yeah.
And I take it from being in the family, that'll stay in the family now?
Yeah, I wouldn't part with it. Not that particular one, no. There's sort of a lot of sentimental value goes to it, because I can sort of remember it from right a small child when it was used regularly, you know.
I'm sure a lot of people agree with it.
Yeah.
All right, lovely. Thanks very much for talking to us.
That's lovely.
Yes, it's an Amco engine. It's a 3-horsepower engine, open crank, single piston with a water cool at the top of the piston head there. It has a flywheel piece for an elevator, stepping and that type of thing, and this would have been used on a farm, which this was, for elevators, dairy work, to run the electricity plant, or anything where belts and pulleys were involved, granaries, and wherever a machine could be used as the mechanics and the mechanical things came into being. This one runs on petrol, or they can run on petrol paraffin. This doesn't have any spark plug. It has an igniter, which is the bar here, and you can hear it. When it's under load, that would strike every single time. At the moment, it's just obviously ticking over. Okay.
Where did the machine come from?
That's a good question. Could you hold? Yes, Gamblingay, Northampton. It's one of its owners came from Northampton, Gamblingay.
Do you know what it did, in its life? Was it on a farm?
It was on a farm, yes, that we do know. Okay.
All right, lovely. Thanks very much for talking to us. This is Brian Rice starting his machine up. He's going to tell us a little bit about the machine now. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the machine and what it's actually doing?
Well, pedal 3-horse, driving the mill, grinding wheat to feed the livestock, Petter is about 1927, and the mill is in the 1920s. I don't know exactly when or the name of it.
Do you know the history of the machine, where it came from?
Well, the mill came from a farm at Stonham, very near to this site, and I don't know where the engine came from. I just acquired it from another enthusiast.
Have you had it very long?
About 5 or 6 years.
Did you restore it, or was it already in there?
No, I restored both of them. The engine was reasonably complete, but the mill was all in bits missing here and there.
How did you manage to put it together from that? Did you, was it guesswork? Or
Well, that was guesswork, yeah. I hadn't got no picture or nothing to go by. So I just sort of made things look as though they were right.
You've obviously done a lot of hard work on the machine. How long did it take you to put it all together?
Well, it took about 6 months for the mill, from stripping it down to making the few bits that were needed. Then I suppose 2 months for the engine, painting it up.
Okay, well we hope to see you again at the rally next year.
Well, if they're having one, I should be here.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Tell us a little bit about the machine itself.
Well, it was built in 1896, Savages of King's Lynn. You know, we've had it in the family since during the wartime.
Yeah. And you take it round to all these different shows?
Yeah, all different shows, fairs, yes.
Yeah. And that's run by a steam engine, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What sort of engine is it?
Savage centre engine, built by Savages, yeah.
It's quite popular, obviously.
Yes.
That's filling up very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, ready for the next round.
Yeah. Okay, we'll watch you get on it and start it up.
Rightio.
Right, thanks for talking to us.
Right,
Thank you very much.
Rightio.
prize. Well, she won anyway. What is her name?
Emma Finber.
Yeah, and how old is she?
10 months.
10 months, yeah. Is it her first competition?
Yes.
Is it? Good, well.
10 months yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you, darling. Yes.
All right, lovely. Thanks very much. Okay. And what is your name?
Roxanne, this is.
Roxanne, is it?
Are you going to speak to the man? Say hello. What's
Come on, can you say what your name is? Say hello.
Say hello. Morning.
What's
Say
his
morning.
name? What's his name?
Speak. You have to talk into that like the man does. Say hello.
Come on, say hello.
You'll just go make faces. And get a lot out of them at this stage.
Do you like these engines? Are they nice?
Nice,
or are
aren't
they
you?
a bit
Prefer
noisy?
these hedgehogs, don't you? And the horses.
And the horses, you like the horses?
And the ride on the horses, don't we?
And you were our first prize winner, weren't you? Oh, hedgehog, okay, lovely, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Come on, you can tell us your name?
What's your name? Justin.
Justin, is it? And which competition did you win?
Came third.
You came third, did you?
In the 3-year-olds.
Good. Is it the first competition?
Yeah.
Good. Well, we hope you win some more, alright? Good luck. Thanks very much. Come on, tell us his name.
David.
It's little David, is it? How old is he?
4 months.
4 months. Is it the first time you put him in a competition?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did he come?
Third.
Came third, did he? Well, we hope you win next year. Yeah. Good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what is his name?
Carl.
That's Carl, is it?
Yes.
And did you come second? You must have come second.
Yes.
And how old is Carl?
4 months.
Turn round a bit. Yeah. Okay, is that his first competition?
Yes.
Are you going to enter him in again?
Don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I might.
Yeah, he's a good looking lad. Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
That was used on road haulage, and pretty quick indeed when they get on the road, and can pull quite a fair bit of weight as well.
And this, last but not least, is a market garden crawler with take ploughs and rotavators, cultivators. He did what will be at the front of the queue, but somehow they managed to convince him to stay at the back. We just realised why. The smallest engine at the rally. You want to tell us a little bit about it? What is it called?
Hasn't got a name.
Hasn't got a name. Is it yours?
Yes.
And how did you manage to buy it?
I saved up my money. Saved up my money.
And how much was it?
£51.
£51, is it? And does it run exactly the same as a big one?
More or less.
With coal and water?
Not coal, but water.
Tell us how you light it then. What does it run on?
Little tablets.
Little tablets, eh? And what are they made of? Are they like fire lighters?
Yes.
And you put them in and get the steam up. Yeah. And that'll go along the ground nicely. Will it tow anything?
It'll tow... I don't know, I've never tried it.
Have you got any others?
I've got 4 others.
Have you? And are they all the same as this one?
No, two are Meccano engines and 3, and the other 2 go along like this.
Oh, that's lovely. All right, lovely. Thanks very much for talking to us. Okay, we'll see you again next year.
This weekend, may I thank Mrs. Harrison and her husband and her sons for allowing us to be here and sort of make a bit of a mess of their land. We hope they'll let us come again for another year, and we thank them very, very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and give them a big hand, please, because they've loaned us this land for the weekend, and we have, after the bad day yesterday, we've done fairly well today, and I think the committee is quite pleased with how things have gone. We haven't been able to do quite as much as we wanted to, but the weather has been against us. But never mind, there's always the next time. And we very, very much hope that we will be back here again in the near future, well, around about 12 months' time anyway, and so they'll be organising another event for next year. Thank you very, very much indeed for turning up, you, the general public, and turning out and braving the weather, especially those who turned up yesterday. But it was real lucky, there's no doubt about that, but today has been just that little bit better. Thank you very much to all of you for coming, and we hope to see you at different rallies around the different areas in the coming few weeks. I'll just be around at 1 or 2 of them, and if you see me, well, come up and have a chat. Be only too pleased to have a chat with you, and we'll continue again at a few more rallies. Well, we've got the floor to make in a few moments, and food processor for the first prize. Right, second one coming out there. Here we are. Come on, the man with the steam engine neck here. Oh, yeah, don't go away. We'll find you a job in a minute.
Dad, do you know you got your
It's a pink ticket.
Yeah,
Pink ticket, and it's got the name on the back, Swanslaw H. Osborne. Thank you very much. So you've won me a teddy bear. Well done. I've got one in the caravan, now that we've got a pair, haven't we? Right, get somebody else to draw one then. Done, that's it. Right, oh, we've got a name on this one. 85, a green ticket. You're not coming another year, Harold. Colby, this one says 443. Is that the one? That'll do, dear. Yes, 443. That's a bottle for you. And we've got a pink ticket, 193 with a name on the back. Oh dear. The ninth is a gift voucher. Anyway, we can arrange that. Oh, it's Mrs. Downs from the fair. Mrs. Downs, where are you? Come on, Nana, you won something again. Come on. You can leave your chairs on for a minute. Oh, all right. We've got one of the children here. Super late. Stowmarket 675284. You can remember that one? Is that the little girl now coming? Well done. You've got the doggy in the window. Well done. One to go. The last one. No takers. Right. Oh yes, here comes the gentleman. Well done. We'll just repeat these, what we've got left here now at the moment. Let's get 118, sir. That's the one. The 12th one. We've got one here with a green ticket, 200. These. Oh yes, yeah. Oh yes. This is what we're going to find, isn't it? Yes. We want to find Swan Store 471033 H Osborne. H Osborne. That's the...
It was the last event on the programme. It's really been a very good day today, this Sunday. There's a lot of people here, waving. I hope to see you all again next year. So from the 1986 Stonham Rally, cheerio.
57 for yesterday.